Welcome back, you night owls. Tonight we step into the dusty, bustling streets of ancient Egypt, a civilization of grandeur, mystery, and let's be honest, some truly questionable job choices. Picture the golden glow of sunrise creeping across endless sands, the tranquil Nile shimmering lazily under morning's first rays, and bustling markets already humming with activity. But tonight, we aren't visiting the glittering palaces or marvelling at the magnificent temples. No, we're diving into the gritty underbelly of everyday Egyptian life, into the forgotten jobs that, trust me, you're probably glad you don't have to endure today. They probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And don't forget to post your location and local time down in the comments. I love knowing where you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sun is barely up, and already our protagonist for today, the dung collector, a profession that brings a whole new meaning to having a crappy job, is trudging through the winding streets of Thebes. His day starts long before the bustling markets open or the temple priests begin their chants. He carries a woven basket strapped across his shoulders, sturdy sandals barely protecting his feet from the hot sand and sharp stones scattered along the path. Dung collectors, often overlooked yet undeniably essential, find themselves at the bottom rung of Egyptian society. Their work, though undeniably smelly and certainly thankless, is surprisingly critical. Egypt's agrarian economy hinges on fertile soil, and dung is essential fertilizer. Without these diligent collectors, agriculture, the backbone of the civilization, would crumble. However, let's be clear, despite its importance, this job isn't anyone's first career choice. He begins his daily route by hitting the outskirts of residential areas, keeping a sharp eye out for the telltale signs of fresh droppings. With practiced ease, he scoops up the dung using a wooden paddle, depositing each smelly parcel into his basket. Donkeys, cattle, camels, even goats and sheep, each has a unique aroma that he's come to distinguish with alarming accuracy. He jokes darkly with colleagues that he could identify the animal by scent alone, though frankly that's a skill nobody envies. Each heap of dung collected carries its own little story. He can tell when a donkey has been fed poorly, or when a cow has enjoyed an unusually rich meal. In modern terms, he's practically a forensic expert, though far less glamorous. But despite this distasteful proficiency, historians still argue whether dung collectors were respected for their crucial role or universally scorned. In any case, their contributions were undeniable, though certainly not glamorous. By mid-morning, his basket is nearly overflowing, and the pungent odour has settled firmly into his clothing and skin. He barely notices it anymore, but shopkeepers, priests, and nobility, oh, they certainly do. They hurry past, wrinkling noses, covering faces, shooting him sidelong glances of thinly veiled disdain. He simply shrugs. It's all part of the job, after all. And secretly he wonders if the nobility knows how closely their prosperity depends on his dirty hands. Probably not, and certainly they wouldn't care to know. At midday he drags his heavy basket to the outskirts of town, near the sprawling farmlands flanking the Nile. Here other dung collectors gather to deposit their morning's work. The smell, already overwhelming, intensifies as dozens of baskets are emptied onto large compost heaps, carefully tended by specialised farmers whose job is equally vital, though marginally less pungent. This dung heap, paradoxically, represents Egypt's cycle of life, renewal, and growth. Without it, the farms would wither, crops would fail, and famine would spread. As our dung collector tosses his final load onto the heap, he exchanges a knowing nod with the compost keepers. No words needed. Their shared duty binds them in mutual respect, even as the rest of society turns away in disgust. But dung isn't only fertiliser, it also finds use in some rather peculiar practices. Remember the infamous crocodile dung sunscreen? Oh yes, Egyptians, particularly noble ladies, prized this peculiar product, believing it kept their skins smooth and radiant. Historians still argue whether this practice was widespread or simply reserved for the wealthy elite trying to outdo one another in bizarre beauty standards. Either way, our dung collector often wonders if his daily labour contributes to some noblewoman's beauty regimen. He chuckles at the thought, picturing the elegant ladies unknowingly benefiting from the least glamorous job imaginable. Lunch break offers little reprieve. Washing hands is a perfunctory act rather than genuinely effective hygiene. He eats quickly, bread and onions flavoured inevitably by the lingering scent of his morning labour. Some of his colleagues share stories, complaining good-naturedly about particularly stubborn livestock or miserly farmers who guard their dung as if it were gold. Well, in a way, it is. Afternoon brings a shift in tasks. If the morning was about collection, the afternoon is about distribution. Now the dung collectors become fertiliser deliverers, hauling carefully measured portions to farmers across the region. The baskets are heavy, cumbersome, and the sun is merciless. Each step is an effort, feet sinking slightly into the hot, sandy earth. Yet despite the hardship, there's satisfaction in knowing his labour helps sustain life and nourish the fields he passes. Farmers receive their fertiliser with measured gratitude, paying in grain or modest amounts of copper coins. It's not glamorous compensation, but it keeps him and his family fed, literally thanks to his own labour's fruits. As he leaves each farm, he sees fields blooming lushly, grains swelling golden under the sun, nourished directly by his tireless, though undeniably smelly work. Toward evening, as shadows lengthen and the desert cools, the dung collector returns home. His body aches, his muscles tremble, but his spirit lifts at the sight of his modest house, lit warmly by the fading sun. His children play nearby, blissfully unaware of the day's hardships their father endures. His wife, long accustomed to the lingering smell, welcomes him without hesitation. Her nose has long since surrendered to inevitability, and their small house is ironically one of the cleanest in town, a desperate compensation for the filth that marks his daily existence. Dinner is simple but comforting. He recounts bits of his day, omitting the grosser details, choosing instead stories of amusing interactions and small victories. He often jokes with his family, reminding them that even the great pharaoh himself relies indirectly on his work. His children giggle sceptically, and his wife rolls her eyes affectionately. Yet they know he's right. His labour, however unpleasant, fuels their civilization's heartbeat. When night finally falls, and stars sprinkle the velvet black sky, he steps outside once more. The air, now cool and fresh, feels blissful against his skin. It's a brief, cherished respite before tomorrow's inevitable repeat. Beneath the vast expanse of stars, he considers his role. No child dreams of becoming a dung collector, and he certainly didn't. Yet there's dignity, however humble, in his necessary task. Egypt's wealth, prestige, even its ability to build monuments stretching skyward, depends subtly yet profoundly on people like him. Without the dung collectors, those pyramids, symbols of eternal grandeur, might never have risen. Their society might have collapsed into dust, forgotten by history. And while historians still debate the precise social standing of his profession, one thing is undeniable. Without him, ancient Egypt simply wouldn't function. As our dung collector finally heads inside for well-earned rest, let us quietly thank the stars above that some jobs remain firmly anchored in history. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you might even feel grateful for your own daily grind, whatever it may be, because at least you're not gathering animal dung in ancient Egypt. As the dung collector settles into a well-deserved rest elsewhere in ancient Egypt, another obscure profession wakes with an entirely different set of challenges: the professional mourner. As dawn gently illuminates the stone temples and homes, it also touches upon tear-streaked faces practicing their most dramatic sobs and heart-wrenching wails. Yes, tonight, we're peeling back the curtain on another of Egypt's overlooked but intriguing jobs: the professional mourner. Now, before you scoff, remember, being convincingly miserable every day is harder than it looks. In ancient Egypt, death was not merely the end. It was a grand social event, as significant as weddings or royal coronations. The more lavish the mourning, the higher the deceased's perceived status. Thus emerges the curious figure of the professional mourner, paid handsomely to wail, sob, and express grief at funerals they often attended without even knowing the departed personally. Historians still argue whether these mourners were genuinely valued or merely tolerated as extravagant theatrics. Nonetheless, their performance was critical in honouring the dead. Our mourner today, let's call her Senet, is rising early to prepare for her day's duties. She slips from her bed, stretches and glances around the modest yet comfortable room. While her job may seem strange to modern minds, in ancient Egypt it provided steady work and even a peculiar sort of prestige. Her house is quiet, save for the soft rustling of linen sheets as she dresses carefully, selecting garments that are suitably sombre, yet also eye-catching. After all, a mourner must both blend in and stand out. Her day begins with vocal warm-ups, ensuring her cries sound convincingly genuine yet suitably heartbroken. She practices pitch modulation, shifting effortlessly from low, mournful sobs to piercing, anguished wails. In today's terms, she'd probably ace a theatre audition, or at least secure a place on reality TV. But here, her talents earn respect and steady pay. Neighbours passing her home offer knowing glances, some amused, others impressed by her dedication. Senet then carefully applies dark kohl around her eyes, smudging it artfully to mimic the look of someone who's been crying for hours. After all, appearances matter immensely in this job. The wealthier the family, the more elaborate and convincing the mourning needs to be. She braids small flowers into her hair, an elegant but mournful touch, and drapes herself in the appropriate attire. Today, she is mourning for the patriarch of a wealthy family, and expectations are especially high. Arriving at the home of the deceased, she joins other mourners assembling at the entrance, their faces already contorted into expressions of practiced grief. Quiet greetings are exchanged. Professional mourners are surprisingly cordial, sharing tips on technique, and sometimes even quietly joking, darkly of course, about the ironies of their work. One older mourner whispers to Senet with a sly grin, "If we cried this much for our own problems, we'd flood the Nile." A soft chuckle ripples through the group, brief, muted, and instantly replaced by solemn expressions as the family appears. Once the procession begins, Senet steps into her role fully. Tears well easily in her practiced eyes, and she lets out a heart-piercing wail that echoes impressively down the street. Heads turn, and observers nod approvingly. Good mourning, after all, is something of a public performance, judged by the emotional impact it achieves. Senet's sobbing inspires the real mourners, friends and family of the deceased, to express their grief more openly, thus ensuring a suitably grand farewell. Senet moves through the crowd, timing her grief carefully. She weeps dramatically at key moments, when the coffin passes, during prayers recited by priests, or when the widow makes her final farewells. Her job requires deep empathy, yet it's fundamentally performative. Over time, she has developed an uncanny ability to gauge precisely how much emotion is needed. Too little, and she risks appearing insincere. Too much, and she might overshadow the actual family, a serious social faux pas. Professional mourners aren't merely emotional spectacles. Their role often extends to comforting the bereaved, demonstrating how deeply the community cares for the deceased. They provide a social service, facilitating mourning and helping families move gracefully through their grief. It's a curious blend of emotional labour and public theatre, essential to Egypt's ritualistic farewell ceremonies. After the ceremony concludes, Senet's performance ends as abruptly as it began. Tears vanish swiftly, replaced by careful neutrality, as she receives payment discreetly from the family. Some historians argue this transactional moment was awkward, yet the families, appreciative of the mourner's skillful display, often express sincere gratitude. In a society that prized order and appearance, professional mourners filled a unique niche, providing comfort, status, and community cohesion simultaneously. Lunch finds Senet at home again, quietly recharging before her next event. Her throat is sore from hours of intense weeping, and her eyes burn slightly from continual rubbing to maintain that convincingly distressed appearance. A light meal of bread, dates, and cool cucumber water soothes her, giving her strength for the afternoon ahead. Even professional mourners need downtime, a reality her neighbours rarely consider as they pass her home, casting curious glances her way. In the afternoon, she attends another funeral, this one smaller, more intimate, requiring subtler emotional nuances. The deceased was less wealthy, and thus the mourning needs are modest. Here, Senet tempers her performance, offering quieter sobs, gentle sighs, and carefully timed whispers of condolence to family members. The shift demonstrates her remarkable adaptability. Mourning, she knows well, is never one size fits all. Returning home at dusk, Senet reflects briefly on her profession. To modern ears it sounds bizarre, getting paid to mourn strangers, but in her culture the role carries real value. Death is universal, yet how societies process grief varies widely. In ancient Egypt, Senet and her colleagues bridge the gap between private sorrow and public expectation, helping the living navigate their emotional landscape through ritual and collective expression. As night falls, she performs a personal cleansing ritual, washing away both physical and symbolic grief. The scented water washes away the day's emotional labour, leaving her refreshed and ready to re-engage with her own quiet life. Despite appearances, professional mourners don't carry grief home with them. It's left at the funeral site, an invisible offering to the gods of the afterlife. Dinner with her family is calm and routine. Her children, used to her unusual occupation, ask occasionally about the families she mourns for. Senet shares carefully chosen details, teaching her children that empathy, even professionally provided, holds deep meaning. They joke gently about her ability to cry on command, her husband affectionately teasing that no secret is safe from her uncanny emotional radar. As the house quiets and sleep beckons, Senet takes a final moment beneath Egypt's ever-watchful stars. The cool night breeze whispers softly around her, gently erasing the day's emotional burdens. Ancient Egyptians believed strongly in balance, and her profession, peculiar as it is, ensures balance between life and death, grief and comfort. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, consider the fascinating paradox of Senet's life. Her unique ability to summon tears for strangers, serving as a powerful reminder that emotions, even if performed, carry genuine human connection. Be grateful you don't have to fake tears to earn your bread, but perhaps spare a thought for those ancient souls whose tears paved the way for genuine mourning. Elsewhere in ancient Egypt, while Senet quietly sleeps, dreaming perhaps of future funerals, another overlooked group stirs in the pre-dawn darkness, the builders of Egypt's great pyramids. This morning we're not stepping into the sandals of the rich or royal. Instead, we're following a day in the life of the pyramid builders, often misunderstood figures whose roles historians still argue over. Were they skilled workers honoured for their craft, or slaves brutally forced into labour? Tonight we peel back the layers, hoping to glimpse the truth hidden beneath centuries of speculation. The first pale glow of dawn stretches across the sand, illuminating sprawling labourers' camps just beyond the shadow of the massive pyramids under construction. Our worker, Rahotep, awakens to a chilly desert breeze, wrapping himself tighter in a rough linen cloak before rising stiffly from his mat. His muscles protest, sore from yesterday's relentless labour, but he shrugs it off. Complaining won't lighten the stones or shorten the workday after all. Rahotep and his fellow workers are often misrepresented in history as mere slaves, but the reality is more nuanced. Many were skilled labourers, masons, carpenters, architects, hired from villages across Egypt during the annual flooding of the Nile, when farming was impossible. In exchange for steady food, modest pay, and the promise of eternal honour, they dedicated years of their lives to erecting monumental tombs intended to last forever. Yet historians still debate fiercely whether these incentives were enough to erase the harshness of their conditions. Breakfast is a hurried affair, stale bread, onions and beer. Yes, beer. It's a key nutritional staple, and, in Egypt, cleaner than water from the Nile. Rahotep gulps down the slightly bitter drink, fortified for another long day. Around him, fellow workers exchange tired jokes, a familiar routine easing their way into the daunting tasks awaiting them. Think Pharaoh's ghost will notice if we skip a stone or two? Someone jests, earning muted chuckles. Humour, though dark and dry, helps them endure the relentless pressure. With dawn fully broken, overseers shout commands, rousing the men into organised groups. Rahotep joins a team hauling massive limestone blocks from nearby quarries to the towering pyramid site. Each stone weighs tons, and moving them is a complex process involving ropes, sleds, and sheer physical strength. They chant rhythmically, voices merging into a hypnotic cadence, coordinating their steps. Heave! Pull! Heave! The sound echoes across the desert, a soundtrack of grit and determination. As Rahotep strains against thick ropes, he feels sweat pooling beneath the scorching sun. The sand beneath his feet shifts constantly, making each step uncertain. Despite the careful planning of skilled engineers, even slight errors here could spell disaster, risking injury or worse. Indeed, historians argue whether the workers considered their labour a sacred honour or simply endured it as a grim necessity. Mid-morning brings a brief pause for water and rest. Men collapse gratefully onto the hot sand, wiping sweat from brows, nursing raw, blistered palms. Rahotep examines his own hands, calloused, worn, evidence of relentless labour. Yet, despite the pain, there's pride in what they're building. Already the pyramid looms majestically against the sky, defying gravity and reason. Rahotep wonders if future generations will appreciate the enormity of their effort, or merely marvel at Pharaoh's eternal ambition. Back to work, the men manoeuvre another immense block, carefully positioning wooden rollers beneath its enormous bulk. Architects supervise closely, shouting commands and measurements. One mistake could compromise stability, a terrifying thought given the scale. The precision involved in pyramid building rivals modern engineering feats, yet these men achieve it with tools of copper, stone, and rope. Rahotep's muscles scream in protest, but he pushes forward, driven by pride, necessity, and perhaps a touch of stubbornness. Lunch, again simple fare, comes quickly. The men sit beneath makeshift awnings, shielding themselves from the sun's brutal rays. Talk inevitably turns to their families back home, farms waiting patiently for Nile waters to recede, and dreams of returning someday, richer and with a reputation bolstered by their labour. Though undeniably arduous, working on a pyramid bestows respect, even immortality some whisper, as future generations recall their dedication in awe. After lunch, the afternoon tasks shift slightly. Rahotep assists masons chiselling stone blocks, painstakingly shaping each precisely to fit seamlessly into the pyramid's growing mass. Precision here is paramount. Blocks must fit together perfectly without mortar, defying gravity and the sands of time. The architects watch critically, eyes sharp for any deviation. Rahotep and his team labour meticulously, knowing their work will be judged by generations to come. As the sun dips lower, casting golden shadows over the desert, Rahotep's strength wanes. Yet quitting isn't an option. Not today, not tomorrow, not until Pharaoh's vision towers majestically over Egypt, proclaiming his eternal glory. The workers' motivations, historians argue, range from reverence and pride to pragmatic acceptance of harsh realities. The truth likely combines all these reasons, as varied as the men themselves. As the day winds down, the overseers call for the work to stop. The exhausted labourers disperse slowly, heading toward communal areas where evening meals await. Fires flicker, pots bubble enticingly, and weary men share tales, boasting humorously about near disasters narrowly avoided. Rahotep settles onto the warm sand, gratefully accepting a bowl of thick lentil stew. The hearty meal replenishes energy, easing the day's soreness. Around the fire, workers swap stories, debating rumours about Pharaoh's changing whims or new pyramid building techniques. One worker insists that future structures will dwarf this one, each pharaoh striving to surpass his predecessor. Another cynically mutters, "Next, they'll have us build one to reach the heavens themselves." Gentle laughter erupts, underscored by weary resignation. Pyramid building, they all agree, might be eternal. As darkness deepens, stars gleam softly overhead, and Rahotep finally heads to his mat, muscles protesting anew with every step. But despite exhaustion, sleep comes slowly. He stares upward, mind spinning with thoughts of tomorrow's relentless labour, the immensity of the pyramid, and the enormity of his task. For all the hardship, there's undeniable awe in building monuments that might stand until the end of time itself. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, reflect briefly on Rahotep and his fellow builders. Misunderstood, often forgotten, their labour literally shaped history, creating wonders the world still marvels at today. Be thankful you're not straining beneath scorching sun-hauling impossibly heavy stones, but also spare a thought of gratitude for those who did. After all, their sweat and sacrifice built humanity's grandest monuments. While Rahotep drifts toward a heavy, dreamless sleep, another quiet but hazardous role emerges from the shadows of ancient Egypt's royal palaces, the pharaoh's cupbearer. Now, cupbearer might sound simple enough, a servant passing a goblet to royalty. Easy job, right? But tonight, let's look a little closer, where every sip could literally mean life or death. This evening, we follow one of these brave, or perhaps slightly desperate souls, whose daily routine is quite literally drinking from a poisoned chalice, or at least making sure it isn't poisoned. Meet Nacht. He rises before dawn, slipping from his bed, nerves already slightly frayed by the prospect of another day protecting Pharaoh's life. It's an honour, yes, and prestigious in a way, but it's also one of Egypt's riskiest professions. Nakht sighs deeply, stretching aching limbs and wondering idly if he might retire, assuming he lives long enough. The thought brings a wry smile. For now, survival is victory enough. Breakfast is minimal. After all, Nakht knows well he'll need room for plenty of wine tasting soon enough. A quick snack of bread and figs suffices, light but fortifying. A glance out the window reveals a rosy glow spreading across the horizon, gently illuminating the palace's immense columns and ornate walls. Within these beautiful structures danger lurks constantly, wrapped neatly in luxurious elegance. Nakht dresses carefully, donning attire that is elegant yet functional. His garments mark him clearly as a trusted royal servant, but practicality matters most. No flowing robes or cumbersome ornaments, he must move swiftly, decisively, especially if something suspicious happens. Every moment requires vigilance. One slip, one oversight, could spell disaster for Pharaoh, and by extension for himself. Arriving at the royal chambers, Nakht greets other servants quietly. Palace life thrives on whispered intrigue, and trust is as rare as precious gems. He knows well that assassinations often come from within. Trusted advisors, jealous family members, ambitious courtiers. Historians still debate just how frequent poisonings were in Egypt's royal courts, but the threat was undeniably real, prompting pharaohs to employ vigilant cupbearers like Nakht. He enters the pharaoh's inner sanctum, bowing respectfully as protocol demands. Pharaoh, serene and seemingly untroubled by threats, barely acknowledges his arrival. Nakht, accustomed to invisibility despite his crucial role, moves silently to his designated station. Here he awaits the arrival of morning refreshments, wine, water, juice, all potential vehicles for poison. His pulse quickens slightly, the familiar anxiety of his role returning. When the drinks arrive, Nakht performs the first critical step in his daily ritual, inspection. He eyes the servants carefully, noting body language, nervousness, and any unusual behaviour. Subtlety matters immensely. A slight tremor or hesitant glance might betray lethal intentions. Only once satisfied with the server's demeanour does he proceed to the next step, sampling each drink personally. If Nakht survives, Pharaoh drinks. Simple, brutal, and astonishingly effective as a safety measure. Nakht selects Pharaoh's favourite silver chalice first, filled with rich, aromatic wine from distant vineyards. He raises it carefully, sniffing subtly for unfamiliar scents. Poison, he knows, might smell faintly bitter, slightly metallic, or disturbingly sweet. Satisfied, he takes a careful sip. The wine flows smoothly, flavours rich and complex. He holds it in his mouth, feeling carefully for any odd sensations. Numbness, bitterness, sudden dizziness. A tense silence hangs heavily as Pharaoh watches impassively. The quiet lasts precisely long enough for any poison to take effect. An agonising 30 seconds. Nakht swallows, waiting anxiously. His pulse quickens, breath catches, but nothing happens. He nods discreetly, signalling safety. Pharaoh takes the chalice casually, sipping elegantly without the slightest hesitation. Nakht breathes easier, at least momentarily. One drink down, countless others to test throughout the day. Hours pass similarly, each drink inspected, sampled, and evaluated meticulously. Nakht's job might seem monotonous, even tedious, yet beneath routine lies constant, simmering anxiety. Each chalice holds potential catastrophe, yet Nakht's trained palate grows increasingly skilled, able to discern subtle differences others overlook. Professional risk sharpens his senses daily. Survival is a powerful motivator. Lunchtime, predictably stressful, brings another gauntlet of testing. Rich soups, pungent wines, even fragrant teas must pass Nakht's rigorous inspections. Pharaoh watches, ever impassive, trusting Nakht's practiced expertise implicitly. It's a curious paradox. Immense trust placed in someone whose primary duty is surviving assassination attempts firsthand. Yet Nakht respects the solemn weight of his responsibility deeply, despite its inherent absurdity. A fellow servant quietly jokes with him afterward, "I hope you enjoyed your last meal," earning only a thin smile from Nakht. Dark humour helps him cope, but it also highlights a brutal truth. Every meal might indeed be his last. He ponders briefly if Pharaoh appreciates how close his survival is tied directly to Nakht's own mortality. Likely not. Pharaoh's divine self-image probably doesn't include relying daily on a servant's continued existence. Afternoon brings another ceremony, another feast, another set of dangers. Foreign dignitaries visit, bringing exotic drinks from distant lands. Always exciting, always nerve-wracking. Each sip risks unfamiliar poisons, yet Nakht manages each gracefully, masking his anxiety beneath practiced calm. Diplomacy, after all, also depends on appearances. Pharaoh must appear untouchable, unafraid, protected by divine favour rather than mere human vigilance. Today's visiting dignitary brings an unusual concoction, an unfamiliar beverage, oddly coloured and faintly sweet-smelling. Nakht eyes it warily. Pharaoh's advisers murmur cautiously, eyes narrowed with suspicion. Nakht, heart racing slightly, takes the goblet, inspecting carefully. He sips lightly, flavours blossoming confusingly across his tongue. Honeyed sweetness with a slightly metallic aftertaste. Alarm rises instantly. Could this be poison? Seconds stretch unbearably. Nakht's eyes flutter briefly, panic rising, but nothing happens. His taste buds, sharpened by years of daily survival tests, recognise the strange flavour as merely unfamiliar, not deadly. Relief floods him, and he signals safety subtly. Pharaoh drinks confidently, smiling politely at the dignitary. Crisis averted again. Evening falls, shadows lengthening gracefully across palace courtyards. Nakht's nerves, frayed thin by hours of constant vigilance, finally relax slightly. Dinner service ends, thankfully uneventful. He exchanges quiet jokes with fellow servants, grateful for their camaraderie. They understand better than anyone the daily tension accompanying his duties, offering respect tempered with gentle teasing. Heading home, Nakht's steps feel lighter. Another day survived. His small dwelling, modest yet comfortable, welcomes him warmly. Dinner thankfully doesn't involve vigilant tasting, just simple bread, olives and cheese. Each bite, consumed safely without anxiety, feels strangely luxurious. A simple pleasure he appreciates deeply after hours spent risking life. Night descends softly over Egypt, stars gleaming tranquilly overhead. Nakht sits quietly outside, savouring cool night breezes and quiet solitude. He reflects briefly on his strange life, guarding Pharaoh daily, risking death with every sip. Yet beneath absurdity lies profound purpose, honour even. Pharaoh depends utterly upon him, though historians still argue whether cupbearers were valued genuinely or merely tolerated necessities. Tonight, as you drift toward restful sleep, spare a grateful thought for your daily cup of coffee or tea, blissfully poison-free. Nakht's daily reality, tense and precarious, reminds us all that simple pleasures, like drinks not tested first for poison, are luxuries indeed. And perhaps, as you drift away, you'll appreciate more deeply your safer, simpler life, far removed from ancient Egypt's poisoned chalices. As Nakht sinks gratefully into sleep, free from poisonous chalices until tomorrow, another corner of ancient Egypt stirs to life. A world both eerie and deeply revered, the world of animal embalmers. Tonight, let's step quietly into this peculiar profession, where devotion to creatures and meticulous ritual converge in a job unlike any other. Imagine waking each morning knowing your workday revolves around preparing pets for their eternal afterlife. It's strange, it's quirky, but it's undeniably vital in the culture of ancient Egypt. Meet Hetep, an animal embalmer whose mornings begin before sunrise, in a small, dimly lit workshop near the sprawling temples dedicated to Egypt's revered gods. The air smells sharply of resin, oils and aromatic spices, a blend both comforting and a little unsettling. Outside, the Nile whispers softly, oblivious to the strange rites taking place within these modest walls. Hetep starts his day with ritual cleansing, scrubbing carefully before donning simple linen robes, pure white symbolizing the sacredness of his task. He glances around at shelves lined with countless small jars, each filled with substances essential for preserving animals, natron salts, oils, resins, fragrant spices. In a curious way, it resembles a well-stocked pantry, albeit one designed exclusively for eternal preservation rather than cooking dinner. Today's tasks begin with embalming a beloved cat belonging to a noblewoman, an especially honoured responsibility given Egypt's well-known reverence for cats. Indeed, harming a cat in ancient Egypt was a serious crime, punishable even by death. Historians still argue how pervasive this reverence truly was, but one thing is undeniable. Egyptians deeply loved their feline companions, often choosing elaborate burials worthy of royalty. Hetep gently retrieves the cat, carefully wrapped and respectfully awaiting its preparation. He begins the delicate task of preserving it, first removing internal organs with expert precision. This step, though unsettling to modern eyes, was essential to prevent decay. Hetep's practiced hands move deftly, careful not to damage the animal's body, a precision that reveals his deep respect for creatures Egyptians revered as sacred. Next, the cat's body undergoes a meticulous cleansing with palm wine, disinfecting and purifying. Hetep murmurs prayers softly throughout, honouring the feline spirit, pleading gently with the gods to welcome this beloved pet warmly into their eternal realm. The atmosphere, quiet and reverent, feels oddly comforting despite the strange tasks involved. The real magic, so to speak, happens with natron, the drying salt that preserves and dehydrates the body. Hetep carefully applies the natron, covering every inch thoroughly yet respectfully. Ancient Egyptians believed strongly in resurrection, insisting preservation was essential to afterlife journeys. Animals were no exception, particularly beloved pets, whose companionship extended even beyond death. While the natron works, Hetep prepares linen strips and fragrant oils. Wrapping the animal is painstaking work, each layer infused with prayers, sacred symbols, and careful reverence. With each wrap, Hetep recites rituals softly, entrusting the cat's spirit safely into divine hands. The entire process, meticulous and deeply spiritual, underscores just how seriously ancient Egyptians took their pets' afterlife journeys. Lunch provides a brief respite. Hetep sits quietly near the river, eating bread and fruit, reflecting thoughtfully on his morning's work. Nearby, a temple looms grandly, home to countless animals Egyptians deemed sacred. Birds, crocodiles, bulls, each symbolizing different gods, wait there, both revered and eventually embalmed upon death. Hetep's role ensures these sacred creatures' journey to the afterlife is smooth, respectful, and suitably grand. The afternoon brings more unusual duties. A family arrives, grieving deeply over their recently deceased ibis, a bird sacred to Thoth, god of wisdom. Their sorrow is profound, genuinely moving Hetep. He gently takes the ibis, promising respectfully to ensure its afterlife journey is peaceful. The family departs, comforted slightly by Hetep's calm assurances, a moment reinforcing just how seriously Egyptians took their relationships with sacred animals. As Hetep prepares the ibis, he reflects briefly on his profession's strange mix of reverence and practicality. While modern perspectives might find embalming animals peculiar, ancient Egyptians viewed this process as vital spiritual work, helping beloved pets transition smoothly into eternity. Hetep finds genuine meaning in this sacred task, believing deeply that his careful labour honours both animals and the gods they represent. Yet, his profession also comes with peculiar risks. Recently, embalming crocodiles became popular, a rather daunting task involving handling animals that even in death remain fearsome. Hetep smiles wryly, recalling the first time he faced such a challenge. Embalming a crocodile required careful navigation around sharp teeth, scales, and claws, an intimidating job even for someone accustomed to embalming delicate birds or beloved cats. Still, Hetep undertook the task with dignity, fully aware historians might one day debate whether such practices were spiritual or simply extravagant. Late afternoon finds Hetep placing carefully wrapped animals into beautifully decorated coffins, each ornate, vividly painted with scenes symbolizing eternity, protection, and divine favor. The coffins themselves are stunning works of art, demonstrating clearly just how seriously Egyptians took animal burial. Hetep briefly imagines future generations marveling curiously over these elaborate coffins, wondering perhaps why ancient Egyptians bothered embalming animals. The thought brings a gentle smile. He knows exactly why. Love, reverence, and devotion to divine creatures who enriched their lives. As the day winds down, families return gratefully to claim their beloved pets, now carefully prepared for eternity. Hetep greets each quietly, offering reassurances and soft blessings for smooth afterlife journeys. Families, deeply grateful, shower him with small gifts or offerings. It's a quiet acknowledgement of his critical role, honouring animals Egyptians genuinely viewed as family members, beloved companions in life and beyond. Nightfall brings quiet reflection. Hetep finishes his final tasks, carefully cleaning tools, tidying jars of precious substances, and reciting closing prayers for the day's embalmed animals. His duties, strange though they may seem, carry genuine spiritual importance in Egypt's rich tapestry of rituals. The embalmed creatures, carefully placed in family tombs or dedicated temple burials, now journey smoothly toward eternal afterlife, guided gently by Hetep's meticulous care. Returning home, Hetep settles quietly onto his mat beneath softly gleaming stars. His muscles ache gently from meticulous labour, yet his spirit feels profoundly fulfilled. Animal embalming, odd as it may appear today, provided ancient Egyptians deep comfort, honouring beloved pets through rituals expressing eternal respect, care, and devotion. Tonight, as you drift toward peaceful sleep, perhaps spare a gentle thought for pets whose companionship means so much in modern life. Ancient Egyptians, through people like Hetep, remind us quietly of animals' profound value, creatures deserving deep respect in both life and death. Rest easy, knowing your beloved pets probably won't need careful embalming, but appreciating deeply how ancient Egyptians expressed their endless love and reverence for animals, a timeless legacy stretching gently across millennia. As Hetep gently closes his eyes, drifting into dreams filled with softly wrapped cats and serene ibises, elsewhere beneath Egypt's starry sky, another forgotten labourer prepares quietly for another taxing day. Tonight, our journey takes us into the humble, yet oddly intriguing life of royal sandal bearers, those unsung souls tasked with a job that seems laughably trivial today, but was serious business back then. Imagine your entire career revolving around protecting royal feet from dirt and discomfort. Tonight we follow Ankh, a sandal bearer whose existence is literally spent beneath the feet of Egyptian nobility. Ankh's day begins early, too early perhaps, as the faint glimmers of dawn barely touch the Nile's tranquil surface. Rising from his simple bed, he stretches, feet already anticipating another day of trudging behind the pharaoh or some high-ranking noble. His home is modest, located within servant quarters near the palace. Close enough for convenience, far enough away to remind him firmly of his status. After a brief wash, carefully washing his own tired feet ironically, Ankh dons his simple yet respectable servant's attire. His sandals, sturdy but humble, contrast sharply with the ornate gilded footwear he'll soon handle. Yet, he feels pride, albeit slightly bemused in his role. After all, not everyone can claim their daily routine directly involves the pharaoh's toes. Breakfast is hurried and simple, dates, bread and water, quickly consumed as Ankh mentally prepares for another day spent quite literally in the shadow of greatness. Arriving at the palace, he carefully retrieves the pharaoh's sandals, meticulously inspecting every strap, buckle and ornamentation. Each detail matters immensely. Any discomfort or flaw might inconvenience Pharaoh, and inconveniencing Pharaoh was never a good idea. Ankh shudders slightly at the thought. The first task each morning involves waiting patiently outside Pharaoh's chamber. Ankh stands silently, sandals resting carefully in his hands. The slightest sign of impatience could be disastrous, so he practices patience like an art form. Finally, Pharaoh emerges, seemingly oblivious to Ankh's presence as he steps casually into the waiting sandals. Ankh adjusts them gently yet swiftly, ensuring the royal feet sit perfectly. Pharaoh's comfort, after all, directly reflects on Ankh's job performance. Next comes the ritual procession through the palace grounds. Ankh trails dutifully behind Pharaoh, constantly vigilant for anything, dust, debris, sharp stones, that might discomfort the royal feet. Occasionally Pharaoh pauses dramatically, perhaps addressing courtiers or inspecting palace gardens. Ankh seizes each moment swiftly to kneel discreetly, brushing sand or dirt carefully from the sandals. The maneuver demands swift precision, visible yet unobtrusive. It's an awkward dance of humility, vigilance, and practiced invisibility. Yet despite its absurdity to modern eyes, Ankh's role was oddly respected in Egypt's strict hierarchy. Sandal bearers were symbols of trustworthiness. After all, proximity to Pharaoh implied implicit trust. Historians still argue whether sandal bearers were genuinely valued or merely convenient human footrests, but their presence undeniably signified status. Indeed, Pharaoh's dignity hinged, absurdly yet undeniably, on having someone constantly protecting his feet. Mid-morning arrives and Pharaoh visits the temple, a significant ceremonial event. Here, Ank's job grows more complex. Entering the sacred space, Pharaoh must remove sandals, a sign of humility before the gods. Ankh swiftly retrieves the precious footwear, handling them carefully, reverently. He places them neatly aside, ensuring they're instantly available afterward. While Pharaoh prays, Ankh waits discreetly nearby, silent, yet always ready. During quiet moments, Ankh sometimes reflects briefly on his unusual profession. In moments of humour, he jokes quietly with other servants about literally serving beneath royalty, a subtle, self-deprecating pun never shared near nobility. Yet he acknowledges the strange dignity involved. Protecting Pharaoh's comfort symbolises broader societal order, however odd the concept seems today. Lunch offers brief respite: simple bread, lentils, onions eaten hastily. Conversation among palace servants often revolves around court intrigue, politics, or rumours of new fashion trends Pharaoh might adopt. Ankh listens quietly, occasionally offering gentle humour about sandal styles, or joking about Pharaoh's exacting footwear preferences. Servants laugh quietly, understanding perfectly the peculiarities of their roles. Afternoon brings different duties. Pharaoh meets visiting dignitaries, which requires careful adjustments to footwear. Here, sandals become symbols, elegant, elaborate, subtly demonstrating Egypt's wealth and sophistication. Ankh selects footwear carefully, matching Pharaoh's outfits precisely. Shoes speak loudly in ancient Egypt, communicating power, prestige, and careful refinement. Ankh's responsibility is ensuring each message conveyed through footwear is perfectly orchestrated. Today, a foreign delegation arrives, bearing lavish gifts and wearing striking footwear of their own. Pharaoh's sandals must be impeccable, carefully chosen to subtly yet undeniably surpass guests. Ankh's heart beats slightly faster, knowing every sandal's condition and appearance subtly influences international perceptions. It's odd, perhaps absurd, but undeniably true. History can turn slightly on footwear impressions, at least symbolically. Pharaoh emerges gracefully, sandals gleaming impressively. Ankh watches anxiously, yet the meeting unfolds smoothly. Visitors admire subtly Pharaoh's footwear, luxurious yet tasteful. Ankh breathes deeply, satisfied, crisis averted. Foreign dignitaries leave impressed, subtly influenced by Pharaoh's elegant appearance, made possible in part by Ankh's meticulous footwear vigilance. Evening arrives, and Ankh gratefully stores Pharaoh's sandals away, carefully inspecting each pair. Repairs, cleaning, meticulous polishing, all fall quietly under his responsibility. His hands ache slightly from constant labour, yet he feels deep satisfaction. Absurd though the task may appear today, Ankh understands its symbolism, pridefully acknowledging his subtle yet critical role within Egypt's intricate social fabric. Returning home, Ankh steps gratefully from his own modest sandals. Feet aching gently, he enjoys dinner quietly, appreciating the rare luxury of sitting rather than constantly standing or kneeling. Family conversations, gently teasing, inevitably, circle back humorously to his strange profession. Questions of Pharaoh's footwear preferences or jokes about sandals becoming Egypt's most valuable artifacts. Ankh laughs gently, understanding well the humour yet quietly proud of his role. Nightfall brings quiet reflection. Beneath softly glowing stars, Ankh ponders briefly the strange dignity embedded in his daily tasks. Modern eyes might dismiss his work as absurd, protecting royal feet, but ancient Egypt understood deeply the symbolism beneath simplicity. Sandals signified Pharaoh's earthly power, humanizing yet dignifying royal authority. Ankh's humble vigilance ensured dignity, respect, and careful order, a quiet legacy rarely recognized yet subtly impactful. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, perhaps spare gentle appreciation for your footwear, simple objects whose daily comfort you rarely consider deeply. Ancient Egyptians, through people like Ankh, remind us gently how symbolism permeates even mundane tasks. Tonight, rest easily. grateful your role doesn't revolve literally around protecting royal toes, yet perhaps appreciating slightly more deeply those small comforts of daily life often quietly overlooked. As Ankh gratefully closes his eyes, resting feet sore from serving beneath Pharaoh's royal souls, another figure quietly emerges into Egypt's soft, pre-dawn glow, the Pharaoh's personal groomer. Tonight, our journey delves into the peculiar world of intimate royal care, examining the daily life of those entrusted with maintaining Pharaoh's divine appearance. Imagine spending your entire existence meticulously grooming someone else, not just anyone, but a ruler viewed as godly perfection itself. Tonight, let's walk quietly alongside Menes, a personal groomer whose entire existence revolves around ensuring Pharaoh looks flawless, literally from head to toe. Menes awakens early, rising gently from his mat, movements already precise, practiced, and efficient. His home is modest yet comfortably appointed, a reflection of his quiet, subtle status within palace society. Breakfast, always simple yet nourishing, consists of figs, dates, and bread. Food chosen carefully, never rich enough to upset delicate royal grooming routines. After dressing neatly, simple linen robes, always impeccably clean, Menes gathers his essential grooming tools: combs carved intricately from ivory, polished bronze mirrors, oils fragrant with myrrh, sandalwood, and lotus flowers. His tools, carefully maintained, symbolize both his expertise and the immense responsibility resting quietly on his capable shoulders. Arriving at Pharaoh's private chambers, Menes awaits silently outside, poised yet unobtrusive. Inside, Pharaoh wakes leisurely, comforted by servants carefully attending to morning routines. When Pharaoh finally signals, Menes enters discreetly, bowing respectfully before beginning his meticulous duties. First comes hair care, a task requiring exact precision. Pharaoh's hairstyle isn't mere vanity, it symbolizes divinity, status, and even political power. Menes begins gently, carefully combing, inspecting every strand meticulously for perfection. Any imperfection reflects directly upon Menes himself, a daunting responsibility indeed. Yet Menes's practiced hands move smoothly, confidently, swiftly achieving flawless appearance. Combs glide gently, oils applied carefully, until Pharaoh's hair gleams subtly, radiating divine elegance. Next comes shaving, a deeply intimate yet essential task. Pharaoh's face must remain perfectly smooth, reflecting divine purity and youthful vigour. Historians still argue how Egyptians viewed facial hair. Some scholars claim pharaohs shaved religiously, others debate whether shaving symbolized power or simply cleanliness. Regardless, Menes understands deeply his role, ensuring each shave achieves absolute perfection, reflecting Pharaoh's idealized image precisely. Menes gently mixes shaving cream, carefully blended from oils, soaps, and aromatic herbs, spreading it smoothly across Pharaoh's face. Using bronze razors honed precisely, Menes gently removes every trace of stubble. Each movement demands practiced precision. Too slow, and Pharaoh grows impatient. Too hurried, and risk injuring royalty, a terrifying thought Menes avoids carefully. Finally finished, Pharaoh's face emerges flawlessly smooth, exuding youth, strength, and divine purity. Now, Menes attends carefully to Pharaoh's cosmetics. Yes, even ancient Egyptian rulers wore makeup, though historians debate fiercely whether cosmetics symbolized power, spirituality, or mere vanity. Cole carefully outlines Pharaoh's eyes, subtly enlarging, emphasizing divine beauty. Pigments color lips faintly, enhancing natural allure discreetly yet strikingly. Menes applies everything subtly, tastefully, never gaudy yet unmistakably royal, powerful, divine. Breakfast follows grooming, providing Menes brief respite. He eats hurriedly, aware always Pharaoh might summon him any time. Palace servants gather quietly, sharing stories, usually gossip involving court intrigue, new fashions, or humorous tales involving Pharaoh's latest whims. Menes listens attentively, laughing softly yet carefully, maintaining discreet silence. His role demands absolute trustworthiness, discretion. Afternoon brings new challenges. Pharaoh attends ceremonial events, festivals, temple rituals, diplomatic receptions, all demanding careful appearance adjustments. Menace quietly accompanies royalty, unobtrusively vigilant, prepared always for subtle grooming corrections. A misplaced hair, smudged cosmetics, tiny imperfections could spark scandal or displeasure, a scenario Menace avoids meticulously through quiet vigilance. Today, Pharaoh attends a grand temple ceremony, worshipping gods publicly. Menace swiftly adjusts cosmetics, subtly intensifying eye kohl, symbolizing religious devotion, spiritual clarity. Pharaoh's appearance must inspire awe, reverence among citizens. Menace's quiet responsibility ensures precisely this impact. As Pharaoh enters ceremonially, Menace watches quietly yet anxiously. Appearance remains flawless, elegant, undeniably divine. Citizens bow reverently, awed precisely as intended. Returning home afterward, Menace stores grooming tools carefully, cleaning meticulously. Evening tasks involve maintaining razor sharpness, comb integrity. Tools symbolize Menace's quiet dignity, professional expertise. Each object carefully cleaned, preserved, symbolizes his dedication, professionalism, subtle dignity. Dinner provides welcome relaxation. Menace enjoys meals quietly. Simple vegetables, bread, occasionally fish. Grateful for food never requiring grooming afterward. Family conversations inevitably circle back humorously to Menace's peculiar profession. Children tease gently about Menace's meticulous habits. Spouse jokes affectionately about grooming family members perfectly someday. Menace laughs softly, yet feels quietly proud. His strange profession provides stability, dignity, quiet honour within Egypt's intricate social fabric. Nightfall finds Menace beneath quietly glowing stars, reflecting briefly on his strange yet fulfilling role. Modern eyes might dismiss royal grooming as absurd vanity, yet Menace understands deeply symbolism embedded subtly within his tasks. Pharaoh's appearance symbolises divine authority, political stability. Menace ensures quietly Egypt's order, elegance, subtle dignity through meticulous grooming routines rarely recognised publicly yet essential. Tonight, as you drift toward restful sleep, perhaps appreciate gently your own simple grooming routines. Tasks modern society rarely assigns great significance, yet quietly shape daily experiences subtly, meaningfully. Ancient Egyptians remind us gently even mundane tasks quietly shape society subtly, profoundly, symbolizing order, identity, quiet dignity. Sleep restfully tonight, grateful perhaps your grooming tasks rarely symbolize divine authority, yet quietly appreciating deeply simple routines shaping subtly your own daily life. While Menace quietly drifts into a peaceful sleep, comforted by dreams of meticulously combed royal hair, far from the quiet elegance of Pharaoh's palace, another figure emerges cautiously from his modest riverside hut, our next forgotten profession, the crocodile wrangler. Tonight, let's follow Sebekotep, a man whose daily routine consists of wrestling with enormous reptiles, respected yet deeply feared by all Egyptians. Imagine waking each morning knowing your entire livelihood involves managing creatures powerful enough to snap you in half without a second thought. Tonight, we step carefully into Sebekotep's sandals, cautiously wading into the murky waters of ancient Egypt's most dangerous profession. Sebekotep wakes before dawn, eyes opening sharply, instantly alert. The Nile murmurs quietly nearby, deceptively peaceful, yet he knows beneath calm waters lurk immense dangers. His modest home sits deliberately isolated near the riverbank, close enough for convenience, far enough to keep neighbours safely distant. Few willingly choose proximity to Nile crocodiles. Fewer still make their living handling them directly. Breakfast is swift and functional. Bread, dried fish, dates consumed quickly. Sebekotep dresses carefully, garments simple yet sturdy. He checks his equipment meticulously. Ropes thick enough to restrain massive creatures, poles sharpened carefully yet never lethal. Crocodiles are sacred after all. Nets woven expertly for strength, durability. Each item symbolizes survival, practicality, quiet respect toward creatures Egyptians deeply revered yet rightly feared. Sebekotep exits cautiously, approaching riverbanks silently, eyes scanning carefully, every ripple potentially signalling danger. Egyptians revered crocodiles symbolically as gods, honouring their power, strength, and mysterious connection to the divine world. Yet Sebekotep's daily reality involves confronting these dangerous creatures directly, handling them with respect yet constant sober caution. Today's first task, capturing a crocodile troubling local villagers, an immense creature known locally as Old Scale. Sebekotep tracks carefully, searching patiently along riverbanks for signs, tracks imprinted deeply, scattered bones of unfortunate prey. His pulse quickens slightly. Old Scale has a fierce reputation, villagers fearing desperately for their safety. Finally spotting the crocodile lounging lazily, deceptively peaceful, Sebekotep approaches cautiously, heart beating faster, adrenaline surging quietly. He carefully maneuvers ropes, nets, preparing methodically. One mistake could be deadly. Historians still debate crocodile wranglers' status. Some claim Egyptians revered them highly. Others argue their profession symbolized desperation, foolish courage. Regardless, Sebekotep respects deeply creatures he handles daily. Powerful, divine, yet brutally dangerous. Suddenly, Old Scale lunges violently, powerful jaws snapping terrifyingly close. Sebekotep dodges swiftly, ropes snapping tautly. He maneuvers skillfully, carefully yet firmly restraining the creature, muscles burning, adrenaline surging powerfully. Villagers watch anxiously, breathless with fear, awe, profound gratitude. Sebekotep finally secures Old Scale expertly, villagers sighing relief, danger, temporarily, restrained carefully yet respectfully. Returning home briefly, Sebekotep carefully tends minor injuries, bruises, scrapes earned through daily risks quietly accepted. Yet he feels profound satisfaction. His dangerous labour protects villagers, maintains delicate harmony Egyptians deeply valued between nature, human civilization, divine symbolism. Lunch offers brief respite. Bread, fruits, freshly caught fish. Sebekotep reflects thoughtfully. His profession, though deeply dangerous, provides genuine meaning, purpose. Egyptians revered crocodiles profoundly, yet Sebekotep understands better than most their power, unpredictability, subtle divinity. His daily labour maintains careful, respectful balance. Egyptians valued deeply between civilization, natural world, divine symbolism subtly intertwined within Egypt's rich cultural tapestry. Afternoon tasks involve temple duties, maintaining sacred crocodile habitats carefully, respectfully. Egyptians revered crocodiles profoundly, believing certain temples housed divine crocodiles, physical manifestations representing gods themselves. Sebekotep carefully approaches sacred habitats respectfully, eyes scanning cautiously, every crocodile symbolizing divinity yet potentially dangerous. Temple crocodiles demand careful feeding, meticulous care, meat chosen carefully, cleanliness rigorously maintained. Sebekotep attends respectfully, performing duties quietly yet expertly. Priests observe solemnly, respecting Sebekotep's skillful handling. Crocodiles symbolize divinity, yet their care demands constant vigilance. Careful expertise, Sebekotep provides, expertly. Historians still debate temple crocodile rituals' precise symbolism. Some scholars argue rituals expressed religious devotion. Others claim temples maintained crocodiles merely symbolizing political power, social order. Regardless, Sebekotep understands deeply subtle reverence. Egyptians felt profoundly toward creatures symbolizing strength, divine connection subtly embedded deeply within Egyptian spirituality, culture. Evening tasks conclude quietly, tools carefully cleaned, ropes meticulously inspected. Sebekotep stores equipment respectfully, silently acknowledging subtle dignity embedded within dangerous yet vital profession Egyptians deeply valued, yet rarely publicly acknowledged. Dinner provides welcome relaxation, simple yet nourishing, enjoyed quietly beneath stars gently illuminating Nile waters softly murmuring quietly nearby. Family conversations inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully back towards Sebekotep's dangerous profession. Children ask breathlessly about fierce encounters. Spouse jokes affectionately about daily risks Sebekotep accepts quietly yet courageously. Sebekotep laughs gently, yet feels profound pride. His dangerous labour maintains careful harmony. Egyptians valued deeply between civilization, nature, divinity, subtly intertwined within Egypt's rich cultural traditions. Nightfall finds Sebekotep beneath softly glowing stars, reflecting thoughtfully. Modern eyes might dismiss crocodile wrangling as reckless absurdity, yet Sebekotep understands deeply subtle dignity, symbolism embedded profoundly within dangerous yet vital tasks Egyptians valued deeply, yet rarely publicly acknowledged. Crocodiles symbolize divinity, strength. Sebekotep's daily labour maintains respectful harmony, subtly yet profoundly between human civilization, natural world, divine symbolism Egyptians revered profoundly. Tonight, as you drift toward restful sleep, perhaps appreciate gently your daily life rarely involves wrestling massive reptiles. Ancient Egyptians remind us gently how subtle dignity, profound symbolism permeates even dangerous professions rarely publicly acknowledged, yet quietly shaping society meaningfully. Tonight, rest easily. Grateful perhaps your daily routine rarely involves wrestling immense reptiles, yet quietly appreciating more deeply subtle harmony Egyptians valued profoundly between civilization, nature, divine symbolism, gently intertwined within cultural traditions, stretching quietly across millennia. As Sebekotep finally eases into well-earned sleep, dreaming perhaps of calm riverbanks free of snapping jaws, elsewhere beneath the soft glow of Egyptian stars, another labourer begins his exhausting day, the brickmaker. Tonight, let's step carefully into the gritty, sweltering life of those responsible for the mud bricks that built Egypt's houses, temples and palaces. Imagine waking each morning knowing your day involves endless, exhausting hours of shaping mud beneath a relentless sun. Tonight we journey quietly alongside Seti, a brickmaker whose hard labour built the very foundations of ancient Egyptian civilization. Seti wakes long before dawn, the air cool, deceptively peaceful. Soon, it will burn mercilessly. His modest home, built from bricks crafted with his own hands, symbolises quiet pride, labour's quiet dignity. Breakfast is simple: bread, lentils, onions consumed swiftly, quietly preparing him for a brutally demanding day ahead. He dresses carefully, linen garments worn, sturdy sandals strapped tightly, each item chosen deliberately for practicality beneath brutal heat soon to rise. Seti quietly gathers essential tools: wooden moulds, straw bundles, water buckets. Each tool symbolises survival, practicality, subtle pride in his exhausting profession rarely recognised publicly yet essential. Arriving early at the brickmaking site, Seti joins fellow labourers quietly gathering, men exchanging tired jokes, greetings whispered softly beneath stars slowly fading gently from darkened skies. Egyptians relied profoundly on mud bricks, building homes, temples, entire cities from this humble yet essential material. Brickmakers quietly understood their vital role, labouring exhaustively beneath scorching sun-crafting bricks, literally forming civilization's quiet foundations. Seti's first task involves mixing mud carefully. Water gathered directly from Nile, clay-rich soil, straw blended meticulously. The mixture must achieve precise consistency. Too dry, bricks crumble. Too wet, bricks lose integrity. Seti mixes skillfully yet swiftly, muscles already burning beneath rising sun now relentlessly brightening gently above horizon. Next, he fills wooden moulds carefully, pressing mixture firmly, smoothing surfaces precisely. The process demands constant precision. Bricks must dry evenly beneath sun's relentless gaze, forming sturdy foundations Egyptians relied upon deeply, yet rarely acknowledged publicly. Seti repeats this process endlessly throughout day, filling moulds, smoothing surfaces, removing moulds carefully, each brick symbolising quiet labour rarely recognised yet profoundly essential. Historians debate fiercely brickmakers' exact status. Some scholars argue Egyptians valued their labour genuinely. Others claim brickmakers symbolised poverty, desperation. Regardless, Seti quietly understands dignity embedded subtly within exhausting labour rarely publicly acknowledged, yet essential to Egypt's civilization subtly yet profoundly. Mid-morning arrives quickly, heat now relentless, merciless. Seti pauses briefly, gulping water gratefully yet briefly. Sweat streams relentlessly down skin now raw, reddened beneath brutal sunlight now blazing mercilessly above. Fellow labourers quietly exchange tired jokes. Humour essential beneath brutal conditions brickmakers endured daily quietly yet courageously. Lunch offers brief respite. Simple bread, vegetables consumed swiftly beneath scant shade provided mercifully beneath makeshift shelters, constructed deliberately near brick-making sites. Conversations among labourers inevitably circle back humorously, yet respectfully toward exhausting profession. Men joking gently about endless mud, relentless sun. Exhaustion accepted quietly yet courageously each exhausting day. Afternoon arrives brutally. Sun now relentless, mercilessly blazing overhead. SETI resumes exhausting tasks relentlessly, filling moulds, smoothing surfaces, removing moulds carefully beneath relentless sunlight now scorching mercilessly above. Muscles ache profoundly, body now exhausted beneath brutal conditions endured daily quietly yet courageously. Occasionally, SETI pauses briefly, gazing quietly yet thoughtfully toward distant buildings constructed carefully from bricks crafted with his own exhausted hands. Homes sheltering families, temples honouring gods, palaces symbolising power, all built literally from SETI's exhausting labour, rarely publicly recognised yet profoundly essential to Egypt's civilization subtly yet profoundly. Late afternoon arrives gratefully, sun now finally relenting slightly, shadows lengthening gently across brick-making sites now filled literally with thousands, bricks drying evenly beneath fading sunlight, gently illuminating brickmakers quietly gathering, tasks now finally concluding gratefully beneath fading sunlight gently signalling evening's welcome arrival. SETI quietly stores tools carefully, moulds cleaned meticulously, straw bundles stored deliberately, water buckets emptied respectfully. Each task symbolises subtle dignity, embedded profoundly within exhausting labour rarely publicly recognised, yet essential to Egypt's civilization, subtly yet profoundly. Returning home gratefully beneath softly fading sunlight, now gently illuminating modest dwellings carefully constructed literally from bricks, crafted tirelessly each exhausting day, SETI quietly enters dwelling gratefully yet exhausted profoundly. Dinner provides welcome relaxation. Simple yet nourishing meals enjoyed quietly beneath modest roofs, symbolising quiet pride, dignity subtly embedded profoundly within exhausting labour, rarely publicly recognised yet profoundly essential. Family conversations inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully towards SETI's exhausting profession. Children asking breathlessly about endless mud, relentless sun, spouse joking affectionately about daily exhaustion, endured quietly yet courageously beneath relentless conditions, accepted daily yet profoundly meaningful within Egypt's civilization subtly yet profoundly. Nightfall finds SETI beneath gently glowing stars, reflecting thoughtfully yet gratefully upon exhausting labour, symbolising subtle dignity, embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian civilization, rarely publicly recognised yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Egyptians relied profoundly upon mud bricks, building homes, temples, palaces literally from humble yet essential material crafted exhaustively each relentless day beneath brutal conditions accepted quietly yet courageously. Modern eyes might dismiss brick-making merely as exhausting manual labour, yet SETI quietly understands profound symbolism, embedded subtly within exhausting profession, rarely publicly recognised yet profoundly essential, subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, as you drift toward restful sleep, perhaps appreciate gently your daily comforts, rarely involving relentless exhaustion beneath brutal conditions, accepted quietly yet courageously daily, yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Ancient Egyptians remind us gently how subtle dignity, profound symbolism permeates even exhausting professions rarely publicly recognised yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, rest easily. Grateful perhaps your daily life rarely involves relentless exhaustion beneath brutal conditions accepted quietly yet courageously, yet quietly appreciating more deeply subtle dignity, embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian civilization, symbolizing quiet pride, subtle honor, quietly shaping society profoundly yet rarely publicly recognized, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. As SETI finally surrenders to sleep, body aching but heart quietly satisfied by his essential labor, another unusual Egyptian profession wakes gently into the first pale hints of dawn, the sacred bird keeper. Tonight, our journey takes us quietly into the serene yet subtly challenging world of those responsible for caring meticulously for birds revered deeply as divine symbols. Imagine waking each day knowing your every move directly affects creatures Egyptians profoundly worshipped as living connections to the gods themselves. Tonight, let's step softly alongside Amos, a sacred bird keeper whose daily life balances reverence, responsibility, and quiet vigilance. Amos wakes gently. Just before dawn's first subtle glow softly illuminates the Nile's tranquil waters, murmuring quietly nearby. His home, modest yet comfortably appointed, lies deliberately close to sprawling temple aviaries, housing countless birds, Egyptians revered profoundly. Falcons symbolizing Horus, ibises representing Thoth, vultures linked symbolically to Nekhbet. Each bird symbolizes profound divinity subtly yet profoundly intertwined within Egyptian spirituality. Breakfast consists of simple bread, dates, and figs, eaten swiftly yet mindfully, quietly preparing Amos for a meticulous day demanding careful vigilance, constant attention. Dressing carefully, simple yet clean linen garments, Amos steps quietly into early morning's softly glowing light, approaching aviaries respectfully yet vigilantly. Temple aviaries, sprawling gracefully near sacred precincts, shelter countless birds Egyptians revered deeply. Amos enters cautiously, greeting fellow keepers quietly yet warmly. Men exchanging gentle greetings whispered softly beneath aviaries, filled quietly with gentle murmuring, rustling feathers symbolizing subtle yet profound divinity. Amos's first tasks involve careful inspection, checking meticulously, each aviary carefully for signs indicating health, happiness among birds Egyptians revered profoundly. Falcons preen quietly yet proudly. Ibises murmur gently beneath soft feathers, carefully groomed meticulously. Vultures observe silently yet vigilantly. Each bird carefully symbolizes divinity subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality. Historians still debate fiercely bird keepers' exact status. Some scholars claim Egyptians revered their profession genuinely. Others argue their labour merely symbolized religious superstition or extravagant luxury. Regardless, Amos quietly understands subtle dignity embedded profoundly within careful vigilance, meticulous attention. Egyptians valued deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized profoundly. Mid-morning arrives gently, sunlight softly illuminating aviaries carefully maintained meticulously by Amos. Fellow keepers quietly exchanging gentle conversations, whispered softly beneath aviaries filled gently with murmuring, rustling feathers, symbolizing subtle yet profound divinity, subtly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality. Feeding demands meticulous attention. Food selected deliberately, chosen specifically reflecting symbolic importance, Egyptians attributed profoundly to each sacred bird. Falcons require meat carefully prepared, ibises consume fish carefully selected meticulously. Vultures receive meals reflecting carefully their symbolic association, profoundly revered deeply by Egyptians. Amos carefully provides nourishment respectfully, performing duties quietly yet expertly, beneath quietly observing priests acknowledging silently yet profoundly Amos's careful vigilance subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality. Lunch offers brief respite. Bread, vegetables consumed swiftly beneath scant shade provided mercifully beneath aviaries softly murmuring quietly nearby. Conversations among bird keepers inevitably circle humorously, yet respectfully toward meticulous profession. Men joking gently about falcon's pride, ibis's elegance, vulture's solemn vigilance quietly accepted daily, yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Afternoon tasks involve careful grooming, meticulous attention, feathers cleaned gently, talons inspected carefully, health observed vigilantly. Each bird symbolizes profound divinity subtly, yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality. Amos attends respectfully yet vigilantly, performing duties quietly yet expertly beneath softly glowing sunlight, gently illuminating aviaries carefully maintained meticulously. Occasionally Amos pauses briefly, gazing thoughtfully toward birds, Egyptians revered profoundly, pondering briefly profound symbolism embedded subtly within meticulous attention, careful vigilance quietly accepted daily, yet profoundly meaningful, subtly, yet profoundly. Falcons symbolize power, strength. Ibises represent wisdom, Knowledge. Vultures signify protection, maternal care. Each bird carefully symbolises subtle yet profound divinity, subtly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality. Late afternoon arrives gently, sunlight softly fading gracefully toward horizon, gently illuminated softly by Nile waters, murmuring quietly nearby. Amos quietly stores tools meticulously, feeding bowls cleaned respectfully, grooming tools stored carefully, aviaries secured vigilantly. Each task symbolises subtle dignity, embedded profoundly within meticulous attention, Egyptians valued deeply yet rarely publicly recognised, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Returning home gratefully beneath softly fading sunlight, gently illuminating modest dwelling symbolising quiet pride, dignity subtly embedded profoundly within meticulous attention, careful vigilance quietly accepted daily, yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Amos quietly enters dwelling gratefully yet thoughtfully. Dinner provides welcome relaxation. Simple yet nourishing meals enjoyed quietly beneath modest roof, symbolising quiet pride, subtle dignity embedded profoundly within meticulous attention, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply yet rarely publicly recognised profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Family conversations inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully toward a Moses' meticulous profession. Children asking breathlessly about falcon's pride, ibis's elegance, vulture's solemn vigilance, spouse joking affectionately about daily meticulous attention, quietly accepted daily yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Amos laughs gently, yet feels profound pride. His meticulous labour maintains careful balance. Egyptians valued deeply between civilization, divine symbolism, subtly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality. Nightfall finds Amos beneath gently glowing stars, reflecting thoughtfully yet gratefully upon meticulous labour, symbolising subtle dignity, embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognised profoundly yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Egyptians revered profoundly sacred birds symbolising subtle yet profound divinity. Falcons representing power, ibises symbolising wisdom, vultures signifying maternal care, each bird symbolising profound symbolism, subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognised profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Modern eyes might dismiss bird-keeping merely as meticulous labour, yet Amos quietly understands profound symbolism embedded subtly within meticulous profession Egyptians revered deeply yet rarely publicly recognised, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, as you drift toward restful sleep, perhaps appreciate gently your daily life, rarely involving meticulous attention, careful vigilance, quietly accepted daily yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Ancient Egyptians remind us gently how subtle dignity, profound symbolism permeates even meticulous professions, rarely publicly recognised, yet profoundly essential, subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, rest easily. Grateful perhaps your daily routine rarely involves meticulous attention beneath quiet vigilance. Quietly accepted daily yet profoundly meaningful, yet quietly appreciating more deeply subtle dignity embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, symbolising quiet pride, subtle honour, quietly shaping society profoundly, yet rarely publicly recognised, yet essential subtly, yet profoundly. As Amos drifts gently into sleep beneath stars, watching softly over sacred aviaries, another figure quietly awakens in Egypt's twilight shadows, the snake charmer. Tonight we journey carefully into the intriguing yet dangerous life of those who spent their days charming Egypt's deadliest serpents. Imagine beginning each morning knowing your livelihood and life depends entirely on your skill to hypnotise snakes capable of ending your existence instantly. Tonight, we quietly follow the steps of Khepri, a snake charmer whose daily life balances quiet courage, skillful showmanship, and constant vigilance. Khepri rises gently from sleep, waking cautiously, senses sharpening instantly, a necessary habit developed over countless mornings confronting deadly snakes. His modest dwelling lies deliberately secluded near temple precincts, ensuring proximity to serpent-infested lands without endangering neighbours unnecessarily. Breakfast is swift yet nourishing. Bread, dates, fresh water consumed quickly, quietly preparing Khepri for a day requiring absolute vigilance. Dressing carefully, simple yet sturdy linen garments, sandals chosen deliberately for quiet agility, Khepri gathers his tools. Woven baskets carefully sealed, flutes carved meticulously, charms symbolizing protection subtly yet profoundly. Each item symbolizes quiet courage, practicality, respectful caution deeply intertwined within Egypt's profound reverence towards serpents, symbolizing both danger and divinity. Morning tasks begin cautiously as Khepri carefully enters areas where serpents dwell. Egyptians revered snakes profoundly, believing serpents symbolize protection, rebirth, divine wisdom, subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality. Yet Egyptians also feared profoundly serpents' deadly power, symbolizing simultaneously danger and protection. Khepri carefully scans terrain, each step cautiously placed, eyes observing meticulously. Suddenly, movement nearby. A serpent quietly slithers gracefully, deadly, yet serene. Khepri approaches cautiously, heart beating faster, adrenaline surging quietly. Skillfully, Khepri uses careful movements, rhythmic sounds, flute notes gently yet hypnotically resonating quietly through softly glowing morning air, to charm carefully the serpent's deadly attention. Historians debate fiercely snake charmers' exact status. Some scholars claim Egyptians revered their skills genuinely, others argue snake charming merely symbolized entertainment, religious superstition, or desperate courage. Regardless, Khepri quietly understands subtle dignity, embedded profoundly within dangerous yet essential profession, Egyptians valued deeply, yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly, yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Mid-morning arrives gently, sunlight softly illuminating Khepri's quiet labours. He captures carefully, skillfully, serpents troubling villages, ensuring safety through quiet courage, skillful charm quietly yet profoundly respected deeply by Egyptians. Each serpent captured symbolizes quiet courage, skillful vigilance subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality, culture. Lunch offers brief respite, simple bread, vegetables consumed swiftly beneath quiet shade provided mercifully near serpent habitats, cautiously yet respectfully maintained quietly yet expertly by Khepri. Conversations among fellow charmers inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully toward dangerous profession. Men joking gently about near escapes, serpent temperaments carefully observed daily, yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Afternoon tasks involve ceremonial duties, temple rituals carefully requiring serpents symbolizing divine wisdom, protection subtly yet profoundly revered deeply by Egyptians. Khepri attends respectfully yet cautiously, carefully handling serpents required meticulously, within sacred ceremonies observed respectfully yet vigilantly, beneath quietly watching priests acknowledging silently yet profoundly, Khepri's skillful vigilance subtly yet profoundly. Ceremonial tasks demand absolute precision. Serpents must appear calm, respectful toward priests symbolizing divine power, protection subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Khepri carefully ensures ceremonies proceed flawlessly. Serpents charmed skillfully, carefully, respectfully beneath quietly glowing sunlight, gently illuminating sacred precincts, softly murmuring quietly nearby. Occasionally, Khepri pauses briefly, gazing thoughtfully towards serpents symbolizing simultaneously danger and protection, subtly yet profoundly revered deeply by Egyptians. Serpents represent powerful paradox Egyptians respected profoundly, dangerous yet divine, deadly yet protective, each serpent symbolizing subtle yet profound divinity, subtly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged profoundly yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Late afternoon arrives gratefully, sunlight gently fading gracefully toward horizon, quietly illuminated softly by Nile waters, murmuring quietly nearby. Kipri carefully stores tools meticulously. Flutes cleaned respectfully, baskets secured carefully, charms stored reverently symbolizing quiet courage. Careful vigilance subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly acknowledged profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Returning home gratefully beneath softly fading sunlight, gently illuminating modest dwelling symbolizing quiet pride, dignity subtly embedded profoundly within dangerous yet essential labour, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Kipri quietly enters dwelling gratefully yet thoughtfully. Dinner provides welcome relaxation. Simple yet nourishing meals enjoyed quietly beneath modest roof, symbolizing quiet pride, subtle dignity embedded profoundly within dangerous yet essential labour, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly acknowledged profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Family conversations inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully toward Kipri's dangerous profession. Children asking breathlessly about near escapes. Serpent charm skillfully mastered daily, yet profoundly meaningful subtly yet profoundly. Kipri laughs gently yet feels profound pride. His dangerous labour maintains careful harmony. Egyptians value deeply between civilization, divine symbolism, subtly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality. Nightfall finds Kipri beneath gently glowing stars, reflecting thoughtfully yet gratefully upon dangerous yet essential labour, symbolizing subtle dignity embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Egyptians revered profoundly serpents symbolizing subtle yet profound divinity, dangerous yet protective, deadly yet wise, each serpent symbolizing profound symbolism, subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Modern eyes might dismiss snake charming merely as dangerous entertainment, yet Kipri quietly understands profound symbolism embedded subtly within dangerous yet essential profession, Egyptians revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, as you drift toward restful sleep, perhaps appreciate gently your daily life, rarely involving quiet courage beneath careful vigilance, quietly accepted daily yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Ancient Egyptians remind us gently how subtle dignity, profound symbolism permeates even dangerous professions rarely publicly acknowledged, yet profoundly essential, subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, rest easily, grateful perhaps your daily routine rarely involves charming deadly serpents quietly yet profoundly meaningful, yet quietly appreciating more deeply subtle dignity embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, symbolizing quiet pride, subtle honor, quietly shaping society profoundly yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. As Kepri drifts quietly into well-earned rest, beneath softly watching stars, another figure rises gently from sleep, preparing quietly for another peculiar yet essential day, the leech collector. Tonight, we carefully step into the marshy, murky world of those whose livelihoods depended upon gathering slimy, blood-sucking creatures Egyptians surprisingly prized for medicinal purposes. Imagine waking daily knowing your job involves willingly wading into swampy waters teeming with hungry leeches. Tonight we quietly follow Nefer, a leech collector whose profession balanced discomfort, practicality, and quiet dignity. Nefer wakes early, just before dawn's gentle illumination softly touches marshy wetlands murmuring quietly nearby. His modest dwelling stands deliberately near swampy lands rich with leeches, creatures Egyptians valued profoundly yet quietly for their surprising medicinal benefits. Breakfast is swift, bread, dried fish consumed quickly yet gratefully, preparing Nefer carefully yet pragmatically for the discomfort soon awaiting. Dressing carefully, sturdy garments designed deliberately to minimize leeches' access, Nefer gathers his tools, woven baskets, simple nets, clay jars sealed carefully. Each item symbolizes practical vigilance, quiet courage embedded subtly yet profoundly within his daily tasks, rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Entering marshes cautiously, Nefer carefully wades slowly through murky waters swirling gently around ankles. Egyptians profoundly valued leeches, believing strongly in their healing powers, treating ailments ranging subtly from headaches to infections. Yet Egyptians simultaneously recoiled profoundly from leeches' unpleasant nature, symbolizing paradoxically healing, yet discomfort subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within ancient Egyptian medicine. Nefer cautiously examines submerged vegetation, searching carefully for signs indicating leeches lurking quietly yet hungrily nearby. Soon, sensation unmistakable, leeches quietly attach themselves eagerly yet silently. Nefer remains carefully patient, enduring quietly discomfort, symbolizing subtle courage, profoundly embedded within practical profession. Egyptians valued deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Historians debate fiercely leech collectors' exact status. Some scholars claim Egyptians genuinely valued their profession, others argue leech collecting symbolized desperation or practical necessity. Regardless, Nefer quietly understands subtle dignity embedded profoundly within practical vigilance. Egyptians valued deeply, yet rarely publicly acknowledged. Profoundly, yet essential. Subtly, yet profoundly. Mid-morning arrives gratefully. Sunlight gently illuminating marshy wetlands, quietly murmuring gently around Nefer, carefully enduring discomfort accepted quietly yet courageously, beneath daily tasks profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Collecting leeches carefully, he places them deliberately within clay jars prepared meticulously, ensuring creatures' survival, effectiveness subtly yet profoundly essential within Egyptian medicinal traditions. Lunch offers brief respite. Simple bread, fruits consumed swiftly near marshy lands murmuring quietly nearby. Conversations among collectors inevitably circle humorously, yet respectfully toward practical yet uncomfortable profession. Men joking gently about leeches' hunger, discomfort quietly accepted daily yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Afternoon tasks involve carefully delivering collected leeches deliberately to physicians awaiting eagerly yet respectfully. Egyptian healers profoundly valued leeches' surprising medicinal benefits. Nefer approaches cautiously yet respectfully, exchanging quietly yet warmly leeches carefully collected, symbolizing practical vigilance profoundly embedded within Egyptian medicinal traditions, revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized profoundly, yet essential subtly, yet profoundly. Physicians examine carefully leeches, judging size, health meticulously. Leeches symbolize healing, paradoxically intertwined subtly, yet profoundly with discomfort. Egyptians endured quietly, yet courageously within medicinal practices revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Nefer observes quietly, yet thoughtfully, understanding deeply subtle dignity, embedded profoundly within practical vigilance. Egyptians valued deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized. Profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Egyptians profoundly valued leeches symbolizing healing, paradoxically intertwined subtly yet profoundly with discomfort, endured quietly yet courageously. Daily within medicinal practices revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Late afternoon arrives gently, sunlight softly fading gracefully toward horizon, quietly illuminated softly by marshy wetlands murmuring quietly nearby. Nefer carefully stores tools meticulously, baskets cleaned respectfully, nets stored deliberately, clay jars sealed vigilantly, symbolizing practical vigilance profoundly embedded within ancient Egyptian medicinal traditions, revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. returning home gratefully beneath softly fading sunlight gently illuminating modest dwellings symbolizing quiet pride, dignity subtly embedded profoundly within practical yet uncomfortable labour, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian medicinal traditions revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly, Nefer quietly enters dwelling gratefully yet thoughtfully. Dinner provides welcome relaxation, simple yet nourishing meals enjoyed quietly beneath modest roof, symbolizing quiet pride, subtle dignity embedded profoundly within practical yet uncomfortable labor, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian medicinal traditions, revered deeply yet rarely publicly recognized profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Family conversations inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully toward Nefer's practical yet uncomfortable profession. Children asking breathlessly about Leech's hunger, discomfort quietly endured daily yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Nefer laughs gently, yet feels profound pride. His practical labour maintains careful harmony. Egyptians valued deeply between healing, discomfort, subtly intertwined deeply within medicinal traditions revered profoundly, yet rarely publicly recognized profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Nightfall finds Nefer beneath gently glowing stars, reflecting thoughtfully yet gratefully upon practical, yet uncomfortable labour, symbolizing subtle dignity embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian medicinal traditions, revered deeply yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Egyptians profoundly valued leeches symbolizing healing, paradoxically intertwined subtly yet profoundly with discomfort, endured quietly yet courageously daily within medicinal traditions, revered profoundly yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Modern eyes might dismiss lech collecting merely as uncomfortable necessity, yet Nefer quietly understands profound symbolism embedded subtly within practical yet uncomfortable profession. Egyptians revered deeply yet rarely publicly recognized profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, as you drift toward restful sleep, perhaps appreciate gently your daily life, rarely involving quiet discomfort beneath practical vigilance, quietly accepted daily yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Ancient Egyptians remind us gently how subtle dignity, profound symbolism permeates even practical yet uncomfortable professions, rarely publicly acknowledged, yet profoundly essential subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, rest easily. Grateful perhaps your daily routine rarely involves enduring hungry leeches quietly yet profoundly meaningful, yet quietly appreciating more deeply subtle dignity embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian medicinal traditions, symbolizing quiet pride, subtle honor, quietly shaping society profoundly yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. As Nefer settles quietly beneath softly glowing stars, his body recovering gently from the day's quiet discomforts, another figure rises quietly in the shadows of Egypt's pre-dawn stillness, the royal physician. Tonight we step carefully into the complicated world of ancient medicine, where physicians balanced science, superstition, and high-stakes care for royalty. Imagine waking daily knowing your decisions directly impacted the health of Pharaoh, an honour filled simultaneously with profound prestige and constant anxiety. Tonight, we follow Ptahhotep, a royal physician navigating carefully the perilous intersection of healing and royal power. Ptahhotep wakes early, senses sharpening quickly, mind already preparing quietly for a day demanding meticulous care, cautious diplomacy, subtle vigilance. His home is modest yet comfortably appointed, located deliberately near Pharaoh's palace, symbolizing quiet prestige deeply intertwined with his essential yet perilous profession. Breakfast is nourishing yet simple. Bread, honey, figs consumed quickly, quietly preparing Ptahhotep carefully yet pragmatically for complex tasks awaiting. Dressing carefully, garments clean, professional yet subtly prestigious, Ptahhotep gathers meticulously tools symbolizing Egyptian medicine's fascinating blend of practicality, spirituality, and cautious experimentation. Herbal remedies, bronze surgical instruments, papyrus scrolls meticulously detailing treatments carefully preserved profoundly within ancient Egyptian medicinal traditions. Arriving early at Pharaoh's chambers, Ptahhotep enters cautiously yet respectfully, quietly assessing carefully Pharaoh's subtle yet critical health indicators: skin coloration, breathing patterns, pulse gently yet methodically monitored. Egyptians profoundly valued royal health, symbolizing divine power, stability subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian political, spiritual life, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Morning tasks involve carefully prepared remedies, herbal concoctions meticulously blended precisely for Pharaoh's specific needs. Egyptians revered profoundly natural remedies symbolizing divine healing, subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within ancient Egyptian medicine, profoundly revered, deeply yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Ptahhotep administers remedies cautiously yet confidently, carefully observing Pharaoh's reactions meticulously. Each subtle sign symbolizing critical indications profoundly embedded, subtly yet profoundly, within ancient Egyptian medical diagnostics, revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Historians debate fiercely ancient Egyptian physicians' exact practices. Some scholars claim genuine scientific rigor, others argue medicine symbolized religious superstition. Cautious experimentation profoundly embedded, subtly yet profoundly within Egyptian medicinal traditions, revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Ptahhotep quietly understands profound complexities embedded subtly, yet profoundly within careful vigilance. Cautious experimentation accepted quietly yet courageously, daily profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Mid-morning arrives gently, sunlight softly illuminating Pharaoh's chambers, quietly, murmuring gently nearby. Ptahhotep meticulously documents treatments, observations carefully preserved profoundly within papyrus scrolls, symbolizing careful record-keeping profoundly embedded, subtly yet profoundly within ancient Egyptian medicine, profoundly revered, deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Lunch provides brief respite, simple yet nourishing meals, enjoyed quickly yet mindfully beneath palace corridors, quietly murmuring gently nearby. Conversations among fellow physicians inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully toward complex profession, men joking gently about Pharaoh's moods. Careful diplomacy, quietly accepted daily, yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Afternoon tasks involve subtle diplomacy, consulting carefully with priests profoundly influencing medical decisions. Egyptians believed symbolized divine guidance subtly, yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian medicinal traditions, profoundly revered deeply yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Ptahhotep navigates carefully priests' demands, medical practicality, Pharaoh's expectations cautiously yet skillfully, his profession symbolizing careful diplomacy subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within ancient Egyptian medicinal traditions, profoundly revered, deeply yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Occasionally Ptahhotep pauses briefly, reflecting quietly upon profound complexities embedded subtly yet profoundly within ancient Egyptian medicine, symbolizing subtle balance. Egyptians profoundly valued between science, superstition, cautious experimentation profoundly embedded subtly yet profoundly within Egyptian medicinal traditions, revered deeply yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Late afternoon arrives gently, sunlight softly fading gracefully toward horizon, quietly illuminating softly palace corridors, murmuring gently nearby. Ptahhotep carefully stores tools meticulously, herbal remedies preserved carefully, surgical instruments cleaned respectfully, papyrus scrolls secured vigilantly symbolizing careful record-keeping profoundly embedded subtly, yet profoundly within ancient Egyptian medicinal traditions, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential subtly, yet profoundly. Returning home gratefully beneath softly fading sunlight gently illuminating modest dwelling symbolizing quiet pride, dignity subtly embedded profoundly within complex yet essential profession, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian medicinal traditions revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Tahatep quietly enters dwelling gratefully yet thoughtfully. Dinner provides welcome relaxation. Simple, yet nourishing meals enjoyed quietly beneath modest roof, symbolizing quiet pride, subtle dignity embedded profoundly within complex yet essential profession. Quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian medicinal traditions revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized profoundly, yet essential subtly, yet profoundly. Family conversations inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully toward Tahatep's complex yet essential profession. Children asking breathlessly about Pharaoh's moods. Careful diplomacy, quietly accepted daily yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Tahatep laughs gently, yet feels profound pride. His complex profession maintains careful harmony. Egyptians valued deeply between medicine, spirituality, cautious experimentation, subtly intertwined deeply within medicinal traditions revered profoundly yet rarely publicly recognized profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Nightfall finds Tahotep beneath gently glowing stars, reflecting thoughtfully yet gratefully upon complex yet essential profession, symbolizing subtle dignity, embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian medicinal traditions, revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential subtly, yet profoundly. Egyptians profoundly valued royal health symbolizing divine power, stability subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian political, spiritual life, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Modern eyes might dismiss royal medicine merely as cautious superstition, yet Tahotep quietly understands profound symbolism embedded subtly within complex yet essential profession. Egyptians revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Tonight, as you drift toward restful sleep, perhaps appreciate gently your daily life, rarely involving quiet diplomacy beneath careful vigilance, quietly accepted daily yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Ancient Egyptians remind us gently how subtle dignity, profound symbolism, permeates even complex yet essential professions, rarely publicly acknowledged, yet profoundly essential subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, rest easily, grateful perhaps your daily routine rarely involves balancing carefully. Science, superstition, cautious diplomacy, quietly yet profoundly meaningful, yet quietly appreciating more deeply subtle dignity, embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian medicinal traditions, symbolizing quiet pride, subtle honor, quietly shaping society profoundly, yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly, yet essential subtly, yet profoundly. As Tahotep drifts peacefully beneath gently glowing stars, resting from the day's delicate balance between healing and diplomacy, another figure quietly awakens, an ancient laundress preparing for a day fraught with surprising dangers along the banks of the Nile. Tonight let's quietly follow Merit, whose humble task of washing clothes involves far more risk than one might imagine. Picture waking each day knowing your work involves not just labouring in scorching sunlight, but risking encounters with Nile crocodiles lurking silently beneath tranquil waters. Tonight, we carefully enter Merit's life, exploring a forgotten profession quietly brimming with unseen peril. Merit rises softly before dawn's first gentle illumination, quietly touches Nile waters murmuring peacefully nearby. Her home is modest, humble yet comfortable, deliberately located near Nile banks, ensuring practicality, yet risking subtly hidden dangers, accepted daily yet courageously, beneath careful vigilance, profoundly meaningful subtly yet profoundly. Breakfast is swift yet nourishing. Bread, dried fruit consumed quickly, preparing Merit carefully yet pragmatically for exhausting labour, soon awaiting beneath relentless sun and hidden dangers symbolising quiet courage subtly yet profoundly. Dressing carefully, simple yet practical garments, sandals deliberately sturdy, Merit gathers essential tools symbolising practicality, vigilance subtly yet profoundly embedded deeply within daily tasks rarely publicly recognized. Profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Woven baskets, wooden paddles, soap crafted meticulously from animal fats, ash carefully preserved profoundly within ancient Egyptian daily life traditions, quietly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly acknowledged profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Arriving cautiously at riverbanks, Merritt carefully assesses surroundings, eyes scanning meticulously, waters appearing deceptively tranquil, yet hiding quietly. Nile crocodiles symbolizing subtle yet profound danger, quietly endured daily beneath practical vigilance, quietly yet courageously accepted, daily profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Historians debate fiercely laundresses' exact status. Some scholars claim Egyptians genuinely respected their labour, others argue washing symbolised desperate necessity, quietly endured beneath relentless sun, hidden dangers subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian daily life traditions, quietly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Merritt begins carefully washing clothes, pounding fabrics vigorously against smooth stones deliberately chosen carefully along riverbanks, murmuring gently yet deceptively tranquil nearby. Each garment symbolises practical vigilance, quiet courage subtly yet profoundly embedded deeply within exhausting labour accepted quietly yet courageously daily, profoundly meaningful subtly yet profoundly. Mid-morning arrives gently yet mercilessly hot, sunlight blazing relentlessly above Merritt, tirelessly washing fabrics vigorously, muscles burning profoundly yet quietly beneath relentless heat, symbolizing subtle courage, profoundly embedded deeply within exhausting labour, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian daily life traditions, quietly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly acknowledged profoundly, yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Lunch provides brief respite. Simple bread, vegetables consumed swiftly beneath scant shade provided mercifully near Nile banks, quietly murmuring gently yet deceptively tranquil nearby. Conversations among laundresses inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully toward exhausting labour. Women joking gently about relentless sun, crocodiles lurking subtly yet profoundly within deceptively tranquil waters symbolising subtle yet profound danger, quietly endured daily beneath practical vigilance, accepted quietly yet courageously, profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Afternoon tasks involve carefully drying washed fabrics, deliberately beneath scorching sunlight blazing relentlessly yet mercifully drying quickly, clothes vigorously washed profoundly yet quietly, beneath relentless heat symbolising subtle courage, profoundly embedded deeply within exhausting labour, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian daily life traditions, quietly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly acknowledged profoundly yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Occasionally Merritt pauses briefly, reflecting quietly yet thoughtfully upon profound complexities, embedded subtly yet profoundly within ancient Egyptian daily life traditions, symbolising subtle courage, profoundly embedded deeply within exhausting labour, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian civilization, quietly revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Late afternoon arrives gratefully, sunlight gently fading gracefully toward horizon, quietly illuminated softly by Nile waters, murmuring gently yet deceptively tranquil nearby. Merritt carefully gathers tools meticulously, baskets stored respectfully, paddles cleaned deliberately, remaining soap-preserved vigilantly symbolising practicality, quiet courage profoundly embedded deeply within ancient Egyptian daily life traditions, quietly revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Returning home gratefully beneath softly fading sunlight gently illuminating modest dwellings symbolising quiet pride, dignity subtly embedded profoundly within exhausting yet essential labour, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian daily life traditions, quietly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly acknowledged profoundly, yet essential subtly yet profoundly. Merritt quietly enters, dwelling gratefully yet thoughtfully. Dinner provides welcome relaxation. Simple yet nourishing meals enjoyed quietly beneath modest roof, symbolizing quiet pride, subtle dignity embedded profoundly within exhausting yet essential labour, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian daily life traditions, quietly revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Family conversations inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully toward Merit's exhausting yet essential profession, children asking breathlessly about crocodiles lurking quietly beneath deceptively tranquil waters, symbolizing subtle yet profound danger, quietly endured daily beneath practical vigilance accepted quietly yet courageously, profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Merit laughs gently, yet feels profound pride. Her exhausting labour maintains careful harmony. Egyptians value deeply between practicality, quiet courage subtly intertwined deeply within Egyptian daily life traditions, revered profoundly yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Nightfall finds Merit beneath gently glowing stars, reflecting thoughtfully yet gratefully upon exhausting yet essential labour, symbolizing subtle dignity embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian daily life traditions, revered deeply yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Egyptians profoundly valued practicality, symbolizing quiet courage, subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within exhausting labour, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian civilization, profoundly revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Modern eyes might dismiss laundering merely as exhausting necessity, yet Merit quietly understands profound symbolism, embedded subtly within exhausting yet essential profession, Egyptians revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Tonight, as you drift toward restful sleep, perhaps appreciate gently your daily life, rarely involving quiet courage beneath practical vigilance, quietly accepted daily, yet profoundly meaningful, subtly, yet profoundly. Ancient Egyptians remind us gently how subtle dignity, profound symbolism permeates even exhausting yet essential professions, rarely publicly acknowledged, yet profoundly essential, subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, rest easily, grateful perhaps your daily routine rarely involves enduring relentless sun, hidden dangers quietly yet profoundly meaningful, yet quietly appreciating more deeply subtle dignity, embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian daily life traditions, symbolizing quiet pride, subtle honor, quietly shaping society profoundly yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. As Merit quietly surrenders to well-earned rest beneath softly glowing stars, far within palace walls illuminated gently by flickering torchlight, another figure rises quietly, the dream interpreter. Tonight, we journey into the mysterious realm of dreams, where deciphering nightly visions could influence the decisions of Pharaoh himself. Imagine awakening daily knowing your interpretations carry profound implications for the fate of Egypt. Tonight, let us walk softly alongside Amune, a dream interpreter whose profession blends quiet prestige, mystical responsibility, and constant uncertainty. Amune awakens softly, mind instantly sharp. Her life revolves carefully around nightly dreams Egyptians profoundly believed communicated directly from gods. Her home, comfortably appointed yet modestly hidden within palace grounds, symbolizes quiet dignity, subtle prestige, embedded profoundly within her mystical yet influential role, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Breakfast is simple yet deliberately nourishing. Bread, figs, honey, consumed quietly yet mindfully beneath gently glowing morning light, softly illuminating chambers symbolizing quiet meditation, carefully preparing a munich quietly, yet profoundly for mystical interpretations, profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly, dressing carefully, garments chosen deliberately for quiet prestige yet respectful humility. Amune gathers papyrus scrolls, ink meticulously preserved, symbolizing careful record-keeping profoundly embedded, subtly yet profoundly, within ancient Egyptian spiritual traditions revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Morning tasks begin respectfully within chambers, softly illuminated gently by early sunlight, murmuring quietly nearby. Egyptians profoundly believed dreams symbolized direct divine communications, profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Amunet quietly reviews dreams Pharaoh experienced, carefully documented meticulously, within papyrus scrolls symbolizing profound record-keeping, profoundly embedded subtly, yet profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Historians debate fiercely dream interpreters' exact status. Some scholars claim genuine spiritual prestige, others argue interpretations symbolized cautious superstition, profoundly embedded subtly yet profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Amunet quietly understands profound symbolism embedded subtly within mystical profession. Egyptians revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Mid-morning arrives gently. Sunlight softly illuminating chambers, quietly murmuring gently nearby. Amunet prepares interpretations carefully, each symbolizing profound significance, profoundly embedded subtly, yet profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Symbols carefully analysed meticulously, animals symbolising gods, natural events indicating divine messages subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within ancient Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognised, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Lunch provides brief respite, simple yet nourishing meals, enjoyed quietly beneath palace corridors, quietly murmuring gently nearby. Conversations among palace attendants inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully, toward mystical interpretations profoundly embedded, subtly yet profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Afternoon tasks involve careful meetings respectfully held deliberately within Pharaoh's chambers, softly illuminated gently by sunlight murmuring quietly nearby. Amunet carefully presents interpretations symbolizing profound significance, profoundly embedded subtly, yet profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Pharaoh listens quietly yet intently, understanding deeply symbolism embedded subtly yet profoundly within dreams, profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Decisions influenced profoundly yet subtly by interpretations presented respectfully, cautiously yet courageously by Amunet symbolizing quiet prestige, mystical responsibility, profoundly embedded subtly yet profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Late afternoon arrives gently, sunlight softly fading gracefully toward horizon, quietly illuminating softly palace chambers murmuring gently nearby. Amunet carefully stores papyrus scrolls meticulously, each carefully preserved respectfully symbolizing profound record-keeping, profoundly embedded subtly yet profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Returning home gratefully beneath softly fading sunlight, gently illuminating modest dwellings symbolizing quiet pride, dignity subtly embedded profoundly within mystical yet influential role, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Amunet quietly enters dwelling gratefully yet thoughtfully. Dinner provides welcome relaxation. Simple yet nourishing meals enjoyed quietly beneath modest roof, symbolizing quiet pride, subtle dignity embedded profoundly within mystical yet influential role, quietly shaping subtly yet profoundly Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered, deeply yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Family conversations inevitably circle humorously yet respectfully toward Amunet's mystical profession. Children asking breathlessly about dream interpretations profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within ancient Egyptian spirituality, revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Amunet laughs gently, yet feels profound pride. Her mystical interpretations profoundly shape decisions influencing Egypt profoundly yet subtly, profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered, deeply yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Nightfall finds Amunet beneath gently glowing stars, reflecting thoughtfully yet gratefully upon mystical profession, symbolizing subtle dignity, embedded profoundly within ancient Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Egyptians profoundly valued dreams symbolizing direct divine communications, profoundly meaningful, subtly, yet profoundly intertwined, deeply within Egyptian spirituality, profoundly revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Modern eyes might dismiss dream interpretation merely as mystical superstition, yet Amunet quietly understands profound symbolism embedded subtly within mystical profession. Egyptians revered deeply, yet rarely publicly recognized, profoundly, yet essential, subtly, yet profoundly. Tonight, as you drift toward restful sleep, perhaps appreciate gently your nightly dreams, symbolizing quiet mysteries profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within human experiences, subtly yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. And so, dear listeners, as our journey through forgotten professions of ancient Egypt gently concludes beneath softly fading stars, let us quietly appreciate subtle dignity profoundly embedded within tasks rarely publicly recognized, yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Ancient Egyptians remind us quietly how daily lives, even those humbly or dangerously lived, carry quiet dignity, profound symbolism shaping subtly yet profoundly, civilizations revered deeply yet rarely publicly acknowledged, profoundly yet essential, subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, as your eyes grow heavy, gently appreciate your daily life, perhaps quietly ordinary yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly intertwined deeply within your own civilization, subtly yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Remember quietly dung collectors sustaining agriculture, mourners honouring grief profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly, pyramid builders creating wonders, quietly enduring beneath scorching sun, profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. As sleep gently claims you, remember quietly crocodile wranglers risking quietly beneath subtle courage, profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly, sandal bearers quietly dignifying royalty, profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Tonight dream softly yet profoundly of animal embalmers quietly honouring beloved pets, snake charmers bravely confronting danger, profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Rest gently now. Grateful perhaps your daily tasks carry quiet dignity profoundly embedded within simple moments, subtly yet profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Sleep gently beneath softly watching stars, stars that quietly witnessed ancient Egypt's forgotten labourers, profoundly meaningful, subtly yet profoundly. Tonight, rest peacefully. Sweet dreams.